Here's what I hate. Real estate agents that say buyers are liars. It gets under my skin because A, it's not true, B, it's not true, and C, it's not true. So we're going to talk a little bit today about understanding buyers and understanding the buyer process and how to work efficiently and effectively with buyers because they represent as much value as a listing. So let's go. So I've discovered in my career working with buyers three very distinct phases. The first phase is research. Research is pretty much done on the internet now. Where do I want to live? How much do I want to spend and what's available? So the buyer might be in that research phase for a week, a month, or sometimes a year, but that's a phase where they are not calling a real estate agent. The next phase, phase two, is what we call inquiry. That's where the buyer now is calling the real estate agent and asking questions like, how steep's the driveway, how close to a school, how far is transportation, how far is the shops. At that stage, you as the agent have to be available or very good at returning calls. So you don't want to be one of these agents that gets a call, 3 days later you return the call. Bad idea and doesn't work. So first phase, research. Second phase, inquiry. Third phase is the actual viewing stage. That's when they're going out looking at property and they're trying to make that decision as to what they're going to buy. And each phase, it's critical you as an agent understand because you're going to have buyers come to you, some in the first phase, some in the second, and some in the third. So you need to adjust yourself to when they come for you, what phase they're in, and how to work with them and how to work through each of those phases so they feel comfortable enough to have you help them find a house. So let me go back and correct myself. There's really probably four phases: research, inquiry, viewing, and then buying. So buying's the fourth stage, but typically the way we always work, that's my wife and I, Kim, the viewing stage was also the buying stage. She was never just showing a buyer property, she was showing a buyer property to purchase. And it was real mental mindset, or a real mindset that she had, that she wasn't just showing property, she was selling a house. So back to the first stage, the research phase. It's changed a lot in the 30 or so years I've been in business. Now you have to make sure your property is presented in this two-dimensional medium called the internet, obviously. So yes, you can have nice pictures. Yes, you can have a nice description of the house. One of the things I've always done, and I've done this now for decades, is I never end my properties in 000 or 900. Every single one of my properties ends in 873. So it might be 599,873. 647,873. The reason for that is when the buyer is scrolling through the internet on the research phase, sometimes just by the fact you have those odd numbers, it just slows them down a little bit and it may cause them to have a look. And if that's all it takes, that's all we need. Remember, real estate is not doing one thing 100% better, it's doing 100 things 1% better. The other thing that's critical in the research phase, when the buyer is scrolling the internet and reading your description of the property, don't go into long meandering as you walk into the house and the summer breeze gently caresses your arm and you can smell the wine out on the table and smell the steaks. Don't do that. It might sound good, it might look good, you might pat yourself on the back for it, a copywriter would love it, but in reality, what the consumer wants is they want a little intro. This house it's located, point, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, family room, etc., 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 all the points, and then at the bottom, this property would suit. So buyers like that format: introduction, features, and then a little kind of conclusion at the bottom. If you do it that way, it's very easy for the buyer to see, read, and understand, as opposed to having read this long, fantastic, meandering War and Peace novel to find out if the property has a brand new kitchen or not. So the next phase, the inquiry, is a bit of a double-edged sword because as a real estate agent, you want to be available for that call and you want to be able to return that call, but you don't want to be on call 24/7 because mentally that's draining, especially after years, if not decades of doing that. You want to have time off, and you need time off to regenerate. So you have to find that balance. My outgoing message says this: "Hi, this is Daryl from Rouse Realty. I'm really good at returning calls, so please leave a long, detailed message and I will get back to you." People know me now, and people will leave a message saying, "Hi Daryl, this is Bob. I need an answer on ABC. Let's see when you call back." And then I call back and they go, "Oh, you called back." Buyers that are looking in that research phase for a while and are finally in the inquiry phase will start to recognize agents that return calls after a while. It's okay to have a day off and return the call the next day, as long as the person calling knows that. So if you always take a Wednesday and Sunday off, say, hey, this is Daryl from Rouse Realty. I'm really good at returning messages. Please leave a long, detailed one. But if this is a Wednesday or a Sunday, I'll return the call the next business day. So don't be afraid to do that, because a buyer is okay once you set that expectation. What they're not okay with is calling on a Thursday and not getting called back till a Friday, especially if you haven't told them you're not working on Friday or you're not working on Thursday and they call at 9 in the morning. So very important that you understand that buyers in this microwave society where everything has to happen quickly, they don't really want to wait too long to get an answer. And in a high inventory market, they'll just move on to the next house. Luckily, right now, we're in a low inventory market, but don't get cocky on that because the markets do change. So the next phase is the buyer viewing property. So if you're one of my Australian real estate friends, switch off now, because the way I'm going to tell my American friends how to do it is completely different from Australia. So in America, you have to set this buyer appointment with the same value that a listing appointment would have. That means you don't just say, hey, what are you looking for? 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, let's go. The way my wife, Kim, used to handle all these appointments was with a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of understanding, a lot of getting past the features and getting into the benefits. You know, do they want a big backyard? Yes. Why? Why do they want a big backyard? Find out the benefit they're looking for, and you might find out they don't need as big a backyard as what you thought. So it can't be done at this very surface level where it's all features. You have to start to get underneath and find out the benefits. You have to find out what we would call their pain points. What are their pain points? Have they moved from a condo or a unit and they've been squeezed and now they want the feeling of spaciousness? Or do they actually want spaciousness? Do they want a big yard? If they want a big yard, do they want to be doing a lot of yard work? So again, Kim dealt with most of the buyers in the way we sold real estate, and she would take so much time with the buyer. That's why when it came time to actually showing the property, she wasn't showing property, she was selling a house. She was going out to sell a house. And I knew, like clockwork, if we didn't meet our goal that month of 5 or 10 sales, whatever it happened to be that month, I knew if she had a buyer appointment, the chance of her going out on a Saturday or Sunday and selling that buyer was about 90%, because she'd done her homework previously. So this phase of working with the buyer and showing property is all about the setup and the homework before you ever put them in your car and drive them around. So the thing to remember here is take your time with the buyer, and don't be afraid to be truthful. I know that might sound like an anomaly in our business, but if you show a buyer a house and you can tell, oops, I'm off, I've showed them a house that doesn't work, say to them, you know what, based on your reaction, I think I missed the boat on that house, is that right? And they might go, yeah, you definitely did, Daryl, that just felt too cramped for us. Allow the buyer to tell the truth. Create the environment and set up the circumstances where you allow the truth. Because if you let that happen, the time you spend with a buyer will be reduced, because you eliminate all the things you're doing wrong, because the buyer is okay to tell you that you did something wrong. If you never set it up so the buyer can tell you the truth, what ends up happening is you end up showing the buyer lots of stuff. You can't really figure out why it's not working. The buyer doesn't really want to tell you. You waste 3 or 4 weekends, and then you call them up after a week and they go, oh, Daryl, great news. You know how this ends. Daryl, great news. We bought a house. Oh, I'm so happy for you. Is not what any real estate agent would ever say. So take your time. Be okay with telling the truth. If you sense you've missed the mark, say that to the buyer. Because the second you say that, they will have so much confidence in you, they will buy a house through you. And to finish up on, don't oversell. Don't be a salesperson. Our job is not to sell a buyer a house. Our job is to create the circumstances and to create the space where a buyer can fall into that space and say, gee, Daryl, we love the house. What do we do next? And that's how Kim, my wife, when she would show the buyer, that's how most of her appointments ended up. It wasn't Kim going, okay, here's a contract, you want to buy it? It was simply the buyer going, Kim, we think we love house number 2. Can we make an offer? So if you do this process correctly and you understand the research phase, you understand the inquiry phase, you understand the viewing phase, and you understand the buying phase, and you know where a buyer is in that process, you'll find working with your buyers, and dare I say, enjoyable. So that's it. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell if you want to be reminded of the next video. They happen every single week, and that's it. Go out, work with the buyer, and enjoy it.